Good Saturday morning, fellow traders. It is actually April 1st. Got the grandkids over, so we're going to have some April Fool's jokes this morning. But anyhow, wanted to get the weekend update out. So, looking at class results, things continue to go pretty well. We closed out this double calendar for $653 in profit a couple days ago. We did close out a loss, however. And this was a butterfly with a long call that we had done a lot of battling on, and just we just weren't getting it. So we closed that one out at a little bit of a loss yesterday on Friday. So this is the bar chart of all of our class trades that we've made since December 1st, and this is the equity curve of those trades. So we can't complain too much about that. So things continue to go well. Obviously, in trading, there will be losses. So we just have to know and understand that. So let's come in, take a look at our chart. First of all, I'll go ahead and load up the graphs here, but I'll come into our chart on RUT because we have a couple positions open on RUT that we're going to look at. And again, normally RUT's not my vehicle, but because of the extreme volatility that we were seeing in RUT at the time we put these trades on, volatility was up in the 32, 33 range, somewhere in there, where SPX volatility was down around 20. So at that point, it made sense to look at the RUT if we could get a good entry without being killed by bid-ask spreads. So that's why we floated an order at a favorable price. If we get filled, great. If we don't, oh well, we're not going to force it. So anyhow, RUT has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of solid rally off its bottom. It's up now around 1800. We can look and see that, RUT has had a little bit of resistance in that area. Let's see if I can turn on my, let's see, I think this will give me my drawing tools, hopefully. Yep. So, okay. So if we look at this, we can see that RUT has a little bit of kind of a resistance area. Yeah, that's not a very good line, but kind of across here and around the 1800 range. So, we've had came down, popped back up into that area, came down here, bounced off that area, had a little stall here trying to go through it. Previously, came down here, bounced off it, then blew through it. So there's just overall, there's a little bit of what I would call consolidation or a little bit of a battle that has historically taken place at that 1800 mark. So we may very well see that again here. So again, everything in probabilities, I'd say there's better than a 50% chance that we're going to see some stalling here. And possibly some reversal here. May not be too severe a reversal, but I think it's less likely than 50% that we're just going to see a blast through up here to 1880, which is going to be probably our next area of resistance if we look at all these tops that had previously been in that area. So that'll be the next area of consolidation most likely. So that would be my expectation on RUT, is a little bit of stalling where we are, possibly a little bit of reversal. So let's take a look now at SPX. And if we look at SPX did have a very clean breakout here, right up into what I was anticipating would be resistance. Again, you can see same thing. We got consolidation here. We broke up through, then consolidated here. We came down, consolidated here, and bounced, and then we came back up to this line, fell off it. So if you look at the various peaks and troughs that are here, again, there seems to be a little bit of a battle line, if you will, in that 4100 range. So again, expectation here is not necessarily a clean run where the next consolidation would be about 4200. I would expect better than a 50% chance of there being a little stalling, maybe even a little back and filling here. This might drop back into around the 40, 50, maybe even down to the 4,000 range. and then it might resume back up from there. So that's kind of my expectation among the two different main indexes that we deal with at that point. So let's look at our different trades that we have open. Um, so these are our class trades that are open right now. So this one, we're going to be looking for some decay. Hopefully this will in fact stall for us because we have some negative delta here. So if this stalls in this area, we're going to see this, our T0 mound up into here a little bit. And as that does, let's see if I can, as that does mound up into here, then we should be able to capture some profit. If this does continue to potentially run up, we may need to see about doing some different adjustments, possibly doing a little bit of diagonalization on some of these downside puts here. So this trade here, what we will likely look at doing if the market stalls or kind of stays up in this range, is we will end up raising our right wing here a little bit. And then generally speaking, I try not to let these get much negative delta out here. And again, that's what we'll do is we'll raise this wing to keep the negative delta out of it. At the same time, we may need to roll this in a little bit too, just to make sure that we don't take on too much downside risk there. We always want to be cognizant of that. Here, it's going to be kind of the same game plan. We'll end up rolling up a wing. Maybe we'll experiment with calendarizing a wing here. We'll kind of have to see how Monday plays out. Now, this is not quite as much of a loss as it's showing here. I should say that pretty much all these numbers are a little suspect on the weekend. But you can see this shows this T0 line coming down to essentially flat behind our number there. And that's not really quite the case. So, but it is down. It's probably down about $150 somewhere in that range. Because of the run up the market had, this was a negative delta trade. So we will look at, we entered this small to begin with two intentions. One, maybe raising this wing, which will drop this wing. That's a possibility. The other possibility is maybe we build this out a little bit more into a condor, a structure that's not going to look too differently from what our FedEx structure looks like here. So we might look at doing something like that. So those will be a couple things that we'll look at here early next week as well. On our rut trade, the hope here is that we might actually get a little bit of a pullback. If we do, we have an order laying out there to pop one of these off. It came close to hitting on Friday, but it did not. That order, let's just see here if I hover over this. Oh, yeah, it's not. I've got a couple working orders out there is the reason that it's not showing me the specific one. But again, we were going to peel off one butterfly, which would raise this right wing a little bit. It is going to drop the left wing a little bit in that process. So that's going to be something that we'll look at. This is quite a ways out. This is all the way out in May, which is the reason it hasn't decayed quite as quickly here. It's given us a little more time to deal with it because it is much further out in time. So we'll have some plenty of time to work with this. All we need is just a little bit of a pullback. And then I think the order we have waiting out there on this one should pop off and thin that out a little bit. And then we can decide what to do with it from there. Then our FedEx trade, as you recall, this head started life as an earnings trade, as an earnings calendar. And then FedEx took a huge jump up on us, which put pressure on this trade. So we made a couple different adjustments. All of you are in the alert service, of course, so you can go look at that FedEx trade and kind of look at the steps that we made every step of the way. But basically, we took off the lower put at max profit. Then I waited probably 3, 4, 5 days to see if FedEx was going to stabilize at a higher price or if FedEx was maybe going to pull back a little bit. Let's just take a look at FedEx on our chart here. And in the case of FedEx, here's that monster gap up on earnings. And it did, in fact, pull back over the next couple days. And I waited probably a touch too late. I think it was probably about in here on this rebound day when I finally went in and I sold new puts against that. It would have been better if I had sold them maybe down in here on this pullback, but I thought it was actually going to pull back a little bit further. I was saying pull back to close the gap, but in retrospect, it did close the gap here. You know, this was the highest previous point recently, and it pulled back right to that point, filled the gap, and then took off. So I should have been paying a little closer attention. That would have been a likely point for me to resell my short puts. I would have gotten a higher premium for them at that time. Then, as FedEx continued to run up, it got up into here, which, right in this general range, which I was considering a resistance area. So on this day, I decided to actually turn this into the condor position that it's in right now. So I really need to have this thing also stall, ideally, maybe even back up just a touch, and kind of decay in here for the rest of this week. That's what I'm looking for on this trade. If we come back and take a look again at our graph, or excuse me, at our graph, it did break out here, so that's a little bit of concern to me. But if we look down here at the volume, I know it's kind of small here. The volume was actually kind of dying as it was moving up. So that volume might be a little bit suspect, and might be an indication that it's going to slow down here. We're also coming into some significant previous resistance where sellers had come in. So pretty much across the board, I feel like our markets have had a pretty hard, fast run. I do think that the likely scenario is that all of these will do what's called backing and filling or consolidating for a few days. Maybe they'll pull back a little bit. Maybe they'll just kind of stop and chop in those areas. Again, I think there's better than a 50% chance we'll actually get a little bit of pullback in the market. Monday, Tuesday. If we do get that little bit of pullback, that's going to be where we can hopefully do some good on all of these. If we get a hard run up from here, we're going to be chasing our tails in a few of these, and we just need to kind of know that going in. So I think that is pretty much it for this weekend. As always, if anyone has any questions, please put those questions in line in the community, in line with our Q&A weekend update videos, and I will address those questions there for everyone. And all of you that are in the butterfly trading class, look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. So thanks so much, and we'll obviously be sharing some new things this week.